Many student loan borrowers are unsure how they'll restart payments after the pause ends, survey says. So let's check this out. According to Fidelity's College Savings and Student Debt Study, 6 in 10 high school students say they won't be able to afford college without the help of student loans. And more than one third, 36%, don't know how long it will take to pay them back. Additionally, the study results reveal 65% of college students taking advantage of the current federal payment pause say they have no idea how they're going to start repaying their loans once the emergency pause is lifted this fall. You know, by clicking a button saying, pay bill. These findings are not as much as a surprise as they are a concern, says Jesse Moore, head of student debt at Fidelity Investments. This October will be the first time in over 3 years that most federal borrowers make a student loan payment, and a lot has changed in 3 years. These people have bought homes, started families, changed jobs, and all have felt the impacts of inflation. And this is the sad thing, is that so many people that were in this student loan pause didn't make a payment at all. Which, if you did, during a time when you weren't being charged interest at all, you could have probably wiped out your student loan debt or lowered it to an extremely smaller amount. But most of these borrowers didn't. And that is like extremely disturbing to me because like imagine you had like $60,000 of student loan debt that was paused, but then you go buy a brand new car with debt. Then you get a home with debt. Then you get debt on your credit cards. And then you finally get hit with this where you're getting having to pay basically your student loan payments now. You're like, you're basically completely screwed right now. Because this could mean like an extra for I think the range is probably between like an extra $300 all the way up to like $1,000 per month in terms of like monthly expenses added on to you because of this, depending on someone's student loan amount. So you might have actually been doing okay, technically speaking, but now you're living paycheck to paycheck. Or you were living paycheck to paycheck before, and then now you are living even less than paycheck to paycheck. Like, this is a really bad situation to be in, and this is why you need to do everything you can to get out of debt and stay out of debt because so many people get into a situation where their debt starts adding up and adding up and adding up to where the monthly payments are just unbearable. Like, you just can't survive it anymore. Let's see. So he noted in particular the recent graduates who are entering the workforce and some of whom are putting their budgeting skills to the test for the very first time. In the US, an average monthly student loan payment is well above $400. So it's actually worse than I was thinking. Because I was thinking anywhere from like $300 to $1,000. So it's not surprising to see so many borrowers express concern about adjusting their budgets when they already feel like they're living paycheck to paycheck to make ends meet, Moore tells Fox Business. What can students do to better prepare themselves to begin repayment? According to Moore, with student debt payments returning this October, he says there are a few steps borrowers can take to prepare. So most people don't know where to start, so getting all loan information, interest rates, and more is a great first step, Moore says. Test your budget. Moore recommends putting a plan in place and testing your budget to ensure you're working with a realistic budget and that you're comfortable with how much you're saving and spending. But the thing is, the majority of people don't actually even have any sort of budget at all. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how people deal with that. Get up to date with what benefits are currently available to you or will become available in the near future, he says. Moore also shares that while it's concerning to see so many borrowers concerned about payments resuming, he believes it's encouraging to see many employers stepping up to help support their employees with student debt benefits. And data shows that 55% of employers in the US are planning to offer or already offer some sort of student debt benefit. more tells Fox Business. Fidelity has resources to help both borrowers and employers navigate the changing landscape as we approach payments resuming this October. Now, what's interesting, what I just recently learned, if you were to work at like Walmart, apparently, even just like if you start working there like today, like and this is your first day, they will basically help contribute to your um, college education in terms of like tuition, books, and stuff, which is pretty cool. Same. So, are there proactive ways that college students can do now to minimize debt? So, there are options for students and their families. Every dollar saved is a dollar less borrowed, and college savings accounts like a 529 have become even more flexible in recent years, so college students can use tax advantage savings for qualified expenses like books, rent, supplies, and more, says Tony Durkin, head of 529 College Savings at Fidelity Investments. Additionally, Durkin says the Fidelity study shows Gen Z is thinking more strategically about college. However, there's still an opportunity for them to brush up on their financial knowledge. Simply knowing how much debt you'll graduate with and what the payments will look like after graduation can help college students plan accordingly when looking for jobs after graduation, he adds. Now, again, one of the things that I find extremely disturbing about debt, and especially like college debt, is that you end up going into debt to get a degree, and then you basically have to find a job, like you're forced to find a job to, at the bare minimum, pay for the monthly cost of that student loan debt. Which, by the way, you could end up finding like a job that you really love. The people there are super great, but you just can't work there because you just don't make enough money because you are forced to pay that student loan payment, right? Like, which is a pretty sad thing because like the problem with debt, the problem with student loan debt and all this other debt like credit card debt, etc., is that it limits you on choices. It gets rid of the freedom of choice for you because you're basically put into a situation where you are forced to go with a job that you might hate just so that you could pay your bills, which sucks. So let's see some of these comments. Interesting. Here's the answer to the heading of this article. Just pay it like you do credit cards, gas, food, and rent. How hard is that? Of course, unless you're still living in your parents' house and not working for a living. More than one third, 36%, don't know how long it will take to pay them back. If they don't know how long, oh geez, what the hell happened? Well, that's weird. What the hell? I don't know why it loaded like that. What the hell is going on? Okay, interesting. So amazing. Over the last 3 years, I continued to pay my mortgage, continued to make my car payments, and paid for my daughter's college education for money I had saved over the years, while doing without many of the toys and convenience many of these poor students seem to enjoy. Never once do I expect to even consider help from the government. It is called personal responsibility. Hmm. Well, maybe if they spent their money on only necessities and not new phones, nails, hair extensions, vacation, etc., they could make their payments. Or maybe get a job, or even two jobs like most rural responsible people do in order to pay bills. They shouldn't have stopped paying. Most had the money and squandered it elsewhere. Principal only payments for 30 years was an incredible gift. I agree. Like, this pause on the student loan debt repayment stuff was probably one of the biggest gifts that people could have ever gotten it because to not have to be paying interest on your student loan debt, which could have been huge, like a lot of people have humongous student loan debt. So, not being charged interest on that student loan debt and you just being able to hammer at it would have been such a good plan for so many people, but so many people did not even touch their student loan debt. Let's start with no more $20 a day Starbucks runs. Ooh, Imagine spending 20 bucks a day at Starbucks. No $1,500 iPhone. Don't go to the club every Saturday and buy bottle service. And most importantly, stop voting liberal who drive inflation through the roof and demand more and more taxes. You know, it's crazy. I never really understood the concept of like going out to like a club or like a bar or something like that because it's just so expensive. Like, I think years ago I was like listening to a conversation I had with people where like they would go out and like spend like over $100 in one night because every drink was like $15 or like $20. It was just like, what? What did you do? You spent how much on what? Like, it just didn't make any sense to me. It's just like, so you spent almost like $100 on one night on a couple drinks that you could have gotten at Walmart for like $5, and you're like having to deal with like getting back home and not get arrested because you don't want to be, driving while drunk. Like, what is the whole purpose of that? Like, I never really understood it in terms of like just going out and stuff and just blowing through all your money. My niece has a student loan. She stopped making payments and instead bought a new car. She was complaining that the government is going to make her pay it back. Now she can't afford the payments because she now has a new car, and increase in auto insurance before she can make the payments. Her car payment exceeds her student loan payment, but now she is mad because she has to start paying her student loan. How can you rationalize with someone like that? The biggest thing is that you really can't. Like, you can't really help anyone with this type of mindset unless they are wanting to change their situation and are trying to make steps to change it, right? For example, you can't get someone to go out of debt, like get out of debt, unless they want to get out of debt, like until they're like sick of carrying the debt. You can't get someone to quit doing drugs until they are sick of basically doing the drugs. Like, if someone doesn't want to do something and they're a grown adult, it's going to be pretty hard to convince them not to do it. And, like, that's the sad thing. And it's just my biggest thing about this whole situation is just that it just, debt is like a chain that, like, chains you to the ground where you can't really move fast, really at all. If you can move, you can't move too far, right? So like it limits your choices, it limits what you can do, it limits where you can live, it limits you on every single aspect of your life until you get rid of it. Like if you had no debt, just imagine it. You could literally go move to a different state at the drop of a hat. You could go on a trip. You could quit your job if you just hated your boss. You could go buy a car and not worry about it because you know you could afford the car, you could afford the gas, you could afford the insurance. Like, oh, you could go to the grocery store and not care about how much you're spending at the grocery store because you got no debt, not really many expenses because you're not forced to pay something every single month. I don't know. I just seen so many people destroyed by debt. It's just so sad.